coming out.
Yes, and Gwen is out in Michigan. Zane is over in London, and I am in Los Angeles. And that leads me to one of the awesome positives of this program of being you get to meet your fellow interns from around the world. And Zane, Gwen, and I not only work together, but we're also really close. And that's the kind of community feeling we like here. And we'll actually have a few more alumni join later in the session. And basically, just a little housekeeping before we start, and as I'm still admitting people from the waiting room. Throughout the presentation, feel free to stop me. And by stop me, I mean type a question into the chat. If something I say, stimulates a question, please type it in, and we'll have Zane and Gwen monitoring that. If it's a simple question, they'll try to just answer it outright, just quickly on the chat. But if it's something that, they feel like maybe everyone can benefit from, or they know that I might not mention in the presentation, I've instructed them to interrupt me and just pop in and yell at me to stop the talk to answer a question. With 72 people in here now, and we actually had over 200 signups for today. So I might see if there'll be more coming soon, but we might get overflowed with questions. And so if that happens, sorry if we can't get to everything. That being said, I also know that a bunch of you submitted questions on the registration form. Thank you very much. If I don't answer your questions today and we don't get to one of your questions during the Q&A at the end or whatnot, or if it doesn't get answered, please email me. Zane or Gwen, can you type my email in the chat? Actually, matt@comeonoutjapan.com. I'm a little more responsive to that one than our main account. So just, I always like to give that out to the people that come to the info session. And just because we do have a lot, we might not get to all the questions. And of course, you guys can reach out to me if we don't answer everything. I also want to thank you guys for the webinar topic you submitted as well, for those of you that did. We're really excited to get going on webinars. Last week, we had a webinar with one of our GC alumni, Jordan, and that's on our webinar page on our website. And we will be featuring more alumni over the coming months, and also trying to do some more fun webinars about Japan, living there, working there, teaching English, teaching abroad, TEFL, and lots of different experiences about the English camp. So keep an eye out for that. And with that, as you can see on the first slide, which we always start at our info sessions, usually it's one of us in person, maybe Gwen at Michigan or Zane over at ICL in London, where we have a nice sign up in person. And this is, of course, the first year we haven't been doing those info sessions in person, which is a bummer, but of course, we're really happy to do it virtually. We always start off by saying to sign up for the newsletter, because if you haven't already, it's the best way to stay updated, especially now with COVID. That's how we'll keep everyone most updated. Of course, we'll update our website, but really the newsletter is the best way to hear about it. And also we send updates on deadlines and English camp, the status of English camp and whatnot, if anything changes. So please sign up for that if you'd like. It comes once every 2 weeks. So yeah. And without further ado, I will start the info session. And again, please type any questions in the chat. You can direct it to me, but Gwen and Zane know a ton about this program, and they can offer more personal experiences. So I'll stop the session to have them share some anecdotes too. Anyways, without further ado, I'm Matt, program director coming out, and I've been doing this program since 2015, and that was our first year of the program, and there were only 11 interns. And this past year, and by past year I mean 2019, we had about 200 interns, and a bunch of those were returning people. So it was Gwen's first year in 2019, but Zane was returning as a leader in 2019. So every year we have interns return to lead the program, lead groups around Japan, lead the classroom, provide their insight, their experience, along with the Japanese staff. So that's a big feeling of our program, is this community vibe and really special bonds over the years, and just a bunch of different awesome interns, such as potentially yourselves, that join together, explore Japan together, and impact students. So This is the Global English Camp. And this is a video, but I'm going to skip this slide because it's on our website, and I don't want to play a video while you are here for taking an hour out of your day. But check out that video. I think it does a great job of giving you a little insight into the classroom. And we have some testimonials there from our interns as well. So Global English Camp, please read our extensive info page on the website. Just go to comingoutjapan.com/Global English Camp, go to information. But in short, it's a 5-week program. So it takes place from mid-July to the end of August. And even if it wasn't, these current difficult times with coronavirus, we still don't confirm the dates until early in the year, before the summer. And that's because we're waiting for confirmation from the Japanese school system about when their summer schedule is, because a lot of schools only have a few weeks off, and we want to make this program as available to as many students in Japan as possible. But usually it is around July 15th, July 16th, and ends at the end of August. And so, yeah, the first week of the program is training, and that is followed by 4 weeks of mentoring Japanese students. So there's 2 groups, Group A and Group B. They arrive within 1 week of each other, and we base that off preferences and also school schedules. There's a lot of people from a lot of different universities here, but some examples I can think of are UC Berkeley in my local California here. They start quite early, and so they get priority to come out to Group A that starts earlier and ends earlier. And some people have summer plans or a job that goes a little late, and they would get priority to go in Group B. And so within these 5 weeks, you're teaching 1 to 6 students a week. Usually it's 4 students. And we have a very thorough textbook that we go over with you in training. So you do not have to create any of your own curriculum. In returning people like Zane and Gwen offer huge insights into the classroom during training week. We go over everything quite thoroughly. Zane's got his textbook there, I see, if you can hold it up. Yeah, it's about 60 pages or so. It's a lot of material for 5 days. But we also have a little bit of flexibility in the camp where you can, if some activity is not quite working with your students, you can take them outside and play a game to get their energy up. We really leave it to the interns being in charge. While we have Japanese staff there, myself, Zane, Gwen, we really trust the interns to do what's best for their students, and we hopefully can convey that during training week. And there's, you can see the numbers here on this slide of how many returning interns roughly we have each year. And of course, the venues throughout Japan, it's as far south as Okinawa. And Okinawa, I like to mention because that venue only had 4 teachers and 16 students. Really, really small. Whereas Shinjuku in Tokyo, so right next to Shinjuku Station in lovely downtown Tokyo, which I'm looking at Zane at the screen right now because we always bring up food, but it's one of the best food spots in the world. Our headquarters right there, if I may say so. And that on that picture there is in Tokyo venue, one of the rooms. And that actually at times has over 100 interns and 500 students. It's a massive venue, our headquarters. Our other headquarters are in Osaka and Nagoya and Yokohama, just outside of Tokyo. And so every venue in Japan is different. We're all running the same program, but it's just a matter of the atmosphere. Sometimes there's only 4 interns, sometimes there's over 100. Either way, it's really fun, really impactful, and I'll talk about that throughout the presentation. Anyways, there's 3 entities running this program. So Come On Out Japan, myself, Gwen, Zane, and some others. We are doing the whole recruiting process. We're doing the onboarding process, getting you guys ready to go to Japan, and we also are ground support in Japan. And again, part of our team as the leaders that lead the groups of 10 to 15 interns around Japan. So you do join within a smaller group when you're in Japan. The other 2 companies are Toshin, which is, you can check out their website via our website, but it's a very famous educational institution in Japan. Primarily, they have jukus, which is cram schools, and a lot of our students are coming from there directly. We do have venues at private high schools in Japan that want to run our program, but Toshin is the primary the sponsor, and they are quite famous. If you mention that name in Japan, most people know it. If you go to a baseball game in Tokyo for the Swallows, you'll see their advertisement right on the left field wall. And it's quite special to partner up with them. Great people, and I know I can speak on behalf of Zane and Gwen as well when we're really close with the staff too, and all interns become close with the Toshin staff. They're fantastic, and they often want to share their favorite parts of Japan with you and take you out to meals and such. And I'll get to that a little bit later too. Our other company is Come On Up, and so they run housing. They do all the reimbursements there. They handle the finances, and they do the language classes, the cultural activities. So they're basically our Japanese contact. Yeah, we've been partnering with both these companies for 5 years. Those are the three entities, and if you do the program, you would meet people from all of them. And so some of these first pictures are from training. Like I said, we do a big week-long training first. What happens is you arrive in Tokyo the weekend prior to training, and we have a little orientation weekend. In the years past, we've done it in Asakusa, kind of the cultural hub of Tokyo. Everyone arrives there. We meet and greet, try to get over jet lag at least. We have a big welcome party. We do some tourist stuff around town. We have, in this top left picture, we have disaster training where just prepare yourself just in case, earthquakes and such. But it's also kind of fun. And yeah, it's just a weekend to get to know people and get ready for training week starting on Monday. Training week's quite fun, I think, because it's actually the only time that you're with the entire group. We've got, 2 groups, so about 120 in each group training together. But after that, you could be going anywhere in Japan. And to touch on that real quick, we assign itineraries to groups. So, for example, Zane led a group through northern or around Tokyo last summer to different venues, and he had a group of 10 to 12 interns with him. And it's based on your preference of, do you want to stay in Tokyo the whole time? A lot of people do. Do you want to go to Kansai, like our Osaka venue? Or are you flexible and want to travel around as much as possible? We often have a group of 10 to 12 or more that are at a different venue each week across Japan. We call them the carry-on crew. That's a trademark of one of our past leaders.
If I could just pop in and interrupt a bit. I think just to clarify things a little bit is that over the whole program, we have this Group A and Group B, where Group A starts and finishes a bit earlier, and Group B starts and finishes a bit later, which have about half of the whole program in them, so about 100 or so interns each. But you will also be split up into your own smaller groups of about 10 or so interns, with one returning intern or one leader who will kind of be your first point of contact and make sure that everything works well. And you'll typically be teaching with that kind of cluster of 10 or so interns.
Thanks, Zane. That helps a lot. And Zane, it would be, in that case, like last year, the point of contact, as helping you in the classroom and anything outside the classroom, referring to staff if you need other help with housing or something, specific to your experience in Japan or going to the doctor. We've got these liaisons like Zane and Gwen. Thank you. And here's a sample schedule. I won't leave it on the on the screen for too long because it might hurt your eyes staring at the small text. But just to give us a good idea of, there's a lot going on. We usually talk about the Olympics. That will be changing next summer because the Olympics will be happening. Well, cross our fingers. We'll see. And we talk about the United Nations. Our kind of culminating event is the Life Mission, which students give a final speech about, what their dreams and goals are, how they, want to contribute to the world. And mixed in, there's a lot of games, speaking exercises, opportunities for you all to talk about your life missions to the students, give presentations on your university life. Super balanced and fun. And of course, time for break as well. So it's about 9:30 to 5, as you can see the hours, 9:30 to 5:30. We have morning meetings to discuss the day, go over any qualms about teaching, and then at the end we have a little meeting too. So here's some more pictures, speaking exercises and games. Yeah, a lot of it is, confidence building. We do have students of varying English levels, not just age range. So, end of junior high students all the way to end of high school. Sometimes we have university students. And the English levels vary quite a bit. It's the same textbook, but you do have to be creative and spontaneous with your group to kind of adapt. And we go over ways to do that in training. Any comments from Zane and Gwen on classroom experiences while I flip through these photos?
Just want to say that you get really close to these students over the week, and you can really see big improvement from them in both their English speaking ability and their confidence. And it's just really fulfilling and amazing to see and bond with people across the world. So, and at the end of the week, you get to talk to them, and sometimes you exchange gifts. I've had students give me small little gifts like, I don't know, Olympic toys and stuff. So yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah, I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. I really think that the interactions with the students is the heart of the program. When you're spending 8 hours a day, 5 days a week with a particular group of students, and then you're doing that 4 weeks in a row, it really becomes the main part of the program, is interacting with these students, helping them with their English, helping them with their confidence, building these bonds with them and between them. And that's really the main part of the program.
It is. A lot of people ask me when I'm doing info sessions is, wow, this sounds really great. It sounds like a free trip to Japan. I'm like, well, first of all, let's talk about the subsidies, which we'll get to later. But also let's think about it like Zane and Gwen just said, in the classroom experience. And a lot of people asked about recommendations for applications. We're not necessarily looking for only people interested in becoming teachers or only Japanese studies majors. We want all sorts of people to join our program with different experiences, different passions, because we train you on the teaching. And whether or not you're going to be a teacher, we do want that passion and enthusiasm to help people and impact others and mentor these students, because as they said, it's really the most special part. Just a quick note from me, my first week of teaching, I thought as a teacher, I just to let everyone know, I also taught last year a full year of junior high school world history in Los Angeles. And with 200 students for a whole year. And so going into this program, I thought 5 days, how much can you really have an impact? Not only, on their developing their English skills for 5 days, anyone who's studying a language knows that's not a lot of time. But how much can we actually mentor them in 5 days? And on the 5th day of my first week, I realized this was something special. It was so fulfilling to see that transformation of them doing their final speech, giving me gifts. Like Gwen pulled out her gift. I have a little gift from one of my students that I keep here. And that, you realize how much the program meant to them. There's some more. Look at, you guys came prepared. Yes. And that, yeah, Zane's holding up oh, you got some drawings too. Zane's holding up the message card students give, which if you do the program, this is supposed to be a surprise. But it is so heartwarming, and yes, it's cliche and sentimental to say it, but it is such a special experience, and you really get that nice feeling at the end of every week, knowing that you tangibly impacted these students. Again, maybe you didn't teach them, maybe they only learned 10 new vocabulary words. That's totally fine, because the impact reaches far beyond that English development. Although they do get such a huge confidence boost. Their first speech compared to their last speech is incredibly different. So thank you, Zane and Gwen, for sharing. And for those of you attending and eventually do this program, hopefully you will get those same feelings.
Can I also just say really quick that the part about not needing just teachers, I mean, I didn't have any teaching experience before this, and it's not really teaching them English, it's just mentoring them into developing their speaking skills. So I was really nervous when I first went. Like I said, I've never taught, been in some summer camps before, but that's it. But honestly, it's after the first day, you really start to get a hold of it, and it's not scary at all. It's really fun, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gwen. Yeah. that's the exact feeling we hope for. And actually, we call our teachers mentors. We use the term mentors because it is more of a mentorship. And this presentation, I've left these photos on the slides. The reason I did that is because I feel like these two give like a good picture of what the environment's like. This is an entrepreneurship presentation, which is one part of our program. And as you can see, one of these students groups did a microwave bento box called Mike, and they're reporting about this product they're selling. And the other one did a domination switch in which you can turn off your annoying siblings. And so while there are serious topics in our program, like the UN SDGs, we're talking about global issues constantly. Really interesting, engaging discussions. We also have a lot of fun with it too. We want students to laugh and enjoy themselves and have fun speaking English, to sort of, if anything, change their idea, their mindset on learning a language as not being, as being a fun thing and being something you can enjoy. There's a bunch of testimonials in this presentation. I'll kind of click through because I feel like we've got Zane and Gwen here to talk too. But yeah, here's another presentation, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As I said, this is really special because you really realize how many great ideas these students have and how passionate they are about world issues. And like I said earlier, you guys also give presentations. So we do a university fair in the bottom right picture. Venue to venue, it changes. Some venues want university presentations in front of the whole class, like you can see here. And other venues, like in Tokyo, we do it very casually, where we set up across the classroom. Maybe it says Zane, ICL, Mathematics, and Gwen, Michigan, Matt, Los Angeles, Film. And students get to choose where they go and to learn, because a lot of these students, quite frankly, want to study abroad. And if they didn't before, they probably will after doing this program. That's a big part of it too, kind of fostering a global mindset. Here's some more testimonials. And I want to mention too that you guys also give a presentation on your life mission, your major, what you're studying, what you hope to do. A great way to connect with more students than just your group, but it's also a really nice way to learn about your fellow interns in the classroom. We think that's a big special part of it too, is being able to connect with people from around the world and learn from each other. I know I love attending all those presentations. Anyways, the final day is the life mission. Like I said, this is sort of the culminating event of the program, where students get up, give a 3-minute speech by themselves. And this is where you really see the transformation of their first speech, which was maybe under a minute. With a group, this is by themselves about their dreams, and you see the passion and you see the change in their confidence and speaking skills too. Really, really fun to see, really fulfilling to see, and also really inspiring. I can't wait for the life mission speeches every week to see all these students talk about the dreams, and it frankly inspires me. And a lot of times you have students that find their life mission during the week, which is really special. I had a student once who was a university student. He was studying economics in his first year, and during the week we had a lot of great discussions. And his life mission speech at the end, he got me a little teary. He was saying, Matt changed my life, and I'm actually starting university over to pursue a career in teaching, because I realized that was my passion. And I didn't think about it before I applied and after doing this camp. And I stay in touch with him still. And he is, actually, he just graduated in teaching. So, and is going to start teaching. So you get these really special experiences in that way too, not just improving their speech, but helping them find oftentimes what they want to do. Zane and Gwen, do you have anything about this aspect of the program?
A lot of the time, students in Japan particularly are doing a lot of what their parents wanted them to do, and they don't, like Matt said, they don't always think about what they really want to do. And I've also seen a lot of the students that I've had change their life missions, or at the very least discover passions that they didn't realize they could pursue as an actual career. And it's really exciting to see them talk about that in front of the class and just pursue their dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. Just seeing them have the courage and the ability to, stick to their guns and stand up there and talk to the whole class for up to 3 minutes, purely in English, about what they're interested in and what they want to do. it's wonderful to see, and it's so rewarding getting close to 3, 4, 5, 6 students and then seeing them come on top at the end of the week. It's amazing.
It is. And you get that good feeling 4 times with new students each week. And you don't want it to end, and and the students, quite frankly, really do not want it to end, which brings me to these next pictures. After the life mission speeches at the end of the final day, we do a little graduation ceremony. That's where you are gifted things, and Zane and Gwen were showing their messages from their students earlier. And we also have the interns give a little speech to their students, as you can see here in these pictures, which is really, really special. And then the students, we have to kick them out inevitably at the end because they want to take selfies and talk for the last hour. We have like a little party and hang out, and we usually have to tell the students, you got to go home. We got to let these interns go. But it is so nice to see, and such a special way and a tangible way to see how you impacted your students at this last day. And this is actually also a time where the only time we allow Japanese in the program. And I think Zane gave some speeches in Japanese at the end, and it's the students don't know if you speak Japanese, even if a little. I don't speak much at all, and I got my friends to help me make a little mini speech that was like 20 seconds. And it's a fun way to end it with the students realizing that, oh my God, they're speaking Japanese at the end.
Yeah, so for people who do know a bit of Japanese, it's really nice to just kind of just lie to them at the start of the week and say that you don't know any Japanese. And then at the end of the week, just kind of swear on them, speak to them in Japanese, and their mind is blown.
Yeah.
And even for those who don't know any Japanese, for them to see you make an effort and, mumble through with a terrible accent and awful grammar and poor vocabulary, that itself is also really inspiring to see them, to see you make the same kind of mistakes as well.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't have put it better. Thanks, Zane. It's so fun. And hopefully you don't mind being recorded, because a lot of the students get out their camera for those speeches. But anyways, really fun last day. You really feel the rewarding aspects of this program. And again, this is the reason why I came back, Zane and Gwen too. It's so special. And here's a testimonial as well. But and there's more testimonials on our website too. I guess before I start the subsidies, you guys are monitoring chat. Did anyone have any questions that were brought up? I think we're good. All right, well, we'll continue to type it in. And like I said, Zane and Gwen are handling that. Thank you, guys. And we'll have a time for Q&A at the end of the hour too. But here's the subsidies of, why it is not a free trip to Japan, but it is a highly subsidized program. So first of all, you get your airfare. This is a really special aspect of the program, we feel. We fly you out to Japan. Some of the limitations with that are a 1,600 USD, so US dollars limit. Zane, what's that in pounds?
I don't know. 100?
1,200? 1,000? I forgot to add that on here, but
250.
There you go. Wait, no, $1,600?
Oh, $1,600.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
gosh. 1,235.
1,200. I was close. 1,235.
Yeah, 1,200.
So we do a lot of conversions here, and the Canadian dollar too. We'll have to do that conversion, Australian dollar. But 600 USD or your currency equivalent, that's what we cover for the flight. And what that is a round trip to Tokyo and back. And so that's because we start the training, whether you're placed in Osaka or Nagoya or going to Okinawa in week 2, everyone starts in Tokyo. That's where our training is at our headquarters. And that's, where we fly in and out of. It's $1,600 for a round trip directly from your home or your university city to Japan and back. A lot of people want to travel to other countries before or after the program. That's great. I've done that in the past. I think it's a fantastic thing to do. However, we provide less of a reimbursement, or excuse me, we provide up to 1,000 USD for those trips. And that's because our team in Japan wants to encourage people to come to Japan and explore before the program, because quite frankly, the 5 weeks goes by really quickly. And so they do want to encourage people to come into Tokyo a couple weeks early, maybe, if you want to travel and actually explore explore parts of Japan. And it's a great thing to do. But of course, you can stop on Hong Kong on the way over, but we just have less of a allotment for that. So thanks for understanding on that. And of course, you could fly to Japan and back, and fly to Japan early, and then fly out somewhere else if you want to. It's up to you. We work with you. You do emails with our travel agency to book that flight. We just confirm it, and we pay it all except the $500 deposit. So you guys pay $500 at the USD at the time of purchase to the travel agency. They hold this deposit, and then after the program ends, you get 400 USD back. So 100 USD is for our onboarding fee, covering things like the background checks, vetting, pre-training, onboarding procedures, all that. But the rest of it, 400 USD, you get within 45 days of completion of the program. The only reason you wouldn't get that full deposit, if you damage your house, please don't destroy your lodging, or you cause problems and you're booted from the program, which of course no one can do, we hope. And so that's how the deposit works. Just a security deposit for us that no people are getting a flight out to Japan and then leaving the program and going on a trip. But please come out early and backpack through Japan. Really great things to do out there. And of course, if you end up doing the program and do that, reach out and ask for advice, ask for recommendations. We've got a lot of alumni for that too, for your travel experience as well. And we want you guys to explore Japan as much as possible. And like I said, those weekends really go by quickly. Since you only have 5 weekends during the actual program time to explore. As far as housing, you get housing every week of the program. Like I said at the start, we have a retreat we've done it at Bunka Hostel in Asakusa in the past. We have different housing throughout the program depending on where you are. Shared housing, where you share a house with other interns, you share the amenities, you get your own room. You also might share that house with young Japanese professionals or recent graduates of college. It's kind of an international company, Come On Up, that does the share housing, and that's really fun to bond with your fellow interns and meet locals as well. Dorm rooms in the past, it's rare, but we do have a few dorm rooms. Homestays are a big deal. Maybe for a lot of you that want to do that, staying with a Japanese student's family or a staff's family. I'll have Zane comment on that in 1 second. And that's a great experience. If you do want to do a homestay really badly and you get accepted into this program, please select that you are flexible for your travel, because there are not many homestays in the big cities of Tokyo and Osaka, for example. Those are mostly occurring in the smaller cities. So if you really want to do a homestay, keep that in mind. There's also apartments, hotels, other housing, but you get housing throughout the program provided for you. Zane, any comments on the homestay?
Yes. So for my experience, I had 1 week in Hokkaido, so far up north in the east of Japan, and it was a very small classroom. In total, maybe about 30 students and about 5 interns or so. And instead of being put into a shared house or dorm room or something like that, I had a homestay with actually one of the staff members on that week. And it was just really great. It was a lovely family. The mother made me bento lunches every day for the week. We went out for dinner at a nice sushi restaurant at the end of the week as well. I got a few gifts from them. I spent time with the family, just being a family as well. And it was just really lovely. It was really nice.
Yeah, it's a truly special experience. And for those of you that want to do it, again, please select that you're open to going to the smaller cities, because that's where they're going to be happening most of the time. But otherwise, great experience in the other housing, like I said, with shared housing, meeting others. And it really depends on where you're placed, on what you're housing in. As far as food subsidies, you get 2,300 yen a week, or a day, which is about $23 US, and that's your lunch and dinner stipend. You are free to spend that as you wish. You get that money. It's not like you bring receipts for what food you have. So that being said, a lot of interns ask, is that enough? Well, one misconception I had about going to Japan was that food was going to be really expensive, and you can find quality food for quite cheap. You can have the best bowl of ramen you've ever had for $5. That's what I always say. And LA's got some pretty good ramen out here, I will tell you guys. And I'm sure many of you, hey, Zane, okay, London's good too. And Michigan, I don't know what your ramen scene's like in Ann Arbor, but just keep in mind that you can save your money for the weekend food, which we don't provide. It's just for the workday, but you can easily do that. However, as we can attest to, we like to splurge on some expensive meals now and then. It's up to you how you spend that allotment for food. Transportation to and from class, you get reimbursed for the work days as well. Or if we're doing a cultural trip, which we have throughout the summer as well, everyone gets two that they get to choose from. Basically, our leaders like Zane and Gwen and our Japanese staff are planning these cultural activities throughout the program. And it depends on where you are and what you're doing. Tokyo, one of the most popular was going to Team Lab, this really cool art museum on Odaiba. And in Okinawa, they went on a snorkeling trip to an island because our leader there got their budget for the activity, and they took a boat out to an island to snorkel. There's so many different activities throughout the summer, depending on where you are, that we provide. They're all optional, but we highly recommend doing that. That being said, there's also a lot of unofficial trips too. I'll often say, hey, I'm taking everyone to my favorite restaurant tonight. First 10 people get to be part of the reservation. It's just the feeling of the program, and staff too. If you're at a smaller town, staff will always want to take you to the famous landmarks. We also provide Japanese language classes throughout the program as well for those that want to do those in different levels. That's why we ask on your application for your Japanese level. Again, no Japanese is required. The vast majority of our interns have not spoken Japanese before, maybe 75% or so each year. And we just do need those to prepare our professors for the course in the summer. They're of course optional as well, and they're all after school. We do another. The big trip we do is in Hakone, which is near Mount Fuji. It's kind of our retreat after training week. We go there for a night, and in these cabins next to a lake. It's beautiful. Little celebration that you finish training and you're ready to go for the program. And there's activities going on there as well. Other thing we provide, of course, is health and accident insurance. And as many of you guys had questions about COVID, and we'll keep that updated on our website. This policy will probably change as well, as we're in talks with our insurance company about how to be best prepared for COVID. But we do, regardless, provide insurance. And I won't get too far into the details, but we did have an intern who had I always tell the story of a collapsed lung during the program. Just happened spontaneously, really scary. And he's fine, of course. and he returned the next year to the program, actually. And he spent a week in the hospital. He, of course, took the train to the hospital when he felt his pain instead of taking an ambulance, which please do in Japan. It's a lot different than here in the States in terms of cost. It's so cheap. It's just like a taxi fee. And it would be covered by your insurance. But anyways, he got there. He was there for a week. We visited him, brought him treats and everything. He was real positive about the whole thing. But just to talk about our insurance, the whole thing was covered. Those emergencies completely covered by our insurance. And of course, we'll keep you updated on what changes for this next summer based on COVID. But we just want to make that little story tells you that, at least you can feel safe in Japan. And of course, even without insurance, they have doctor's visit is way cheaper than at least here in the States. Not even close. It's like what, $40 sometimes for a visit in Japan when I went once. So I mean, completely different than for those of you in the States that we know. Anyways, we want everyone to feel safe, and just to make that clear, we will keep you updated on COVID, and of course, the program is tentative, just because I didn't say at the start because of the situation. And of course, what else you get? You get a cultural experience of a lifetime. That is really true. It's really unforgettable. So many friendships, so much impact on these students. And yeah, is there any specific questions coming up on these subsidies? I know sometimes there's multiple here. Were we good? All right. So I'll try to wrap this up in the next 5 or so minutes so we can have a free time for questions. But just to go through some pictures of cultural experiences. We also have cooking nights again. Food, big part of our program. Lots of different cultural experiences. That the bottom left picture is on the lake in Hakone, where our retreat is. At the bottom right one is I was taking the group on a hike in Hakone. We do language exchanges as well. I didn't mention that. And actually, if you go to our blog page, one of our interns just wrote about applying to universities in Japan, and we have a picture there of our language exchange, which Zane is in at University of Tokyo, which we do every summer. That's really fun. You get to meet university students there and practice English and Japanese. It's really casual and fun, and great to make connections with these university students too. Here's some pictures from some of our other trips in the past. Muir Beach. I'm going to skip through these testimonials. And I could talk for so long about all the fun trips we do as groups, officially through the program and unofficially, and how amazing of a cultural experience it is, and to do so together with like-minded people and really great people. What I'm thinking about right now as I look at Zane and Gwen is I'm really bummed that I'm not in London or Ann Arbor to do these presentations live and in person, and because I love meeting all you and all new people that want to do the program, but I love visiting my alumni and taking them out to dinner and catching up, and that's a really special part of this as well. But again, bringing it back to these pictures, the most important aspect and significant experience of the program is in the classroom with the students, having fun, impacting them. These are some of the classroom pictures at the end of the week. This one was in Osaka. Here's Okinawa, so you can see a much smaller group. And here are some of the teams over the year, just to give you an idea of how we've grown. There's the first group of us and the second group of us. You can see we change our shirt color every year, and I've got this blue one right here. The 2017 team. There's a 2018 team. You can do a quick find Zane. You've got 3 seconds to find Zane.
I found me.
Of course you did. And the 2019 teams, now you can try to find Gwen and Zane. But like I said, this last year we split it into 2 groups. So it's half and half, about 100, 120 students or interns per group. And yeah, the Zane's easy to find on this one on the bottom. He's right front and center. And you can return. This is our group of returning leaders and interns that did the program for the second or third time this last summer, 2019. And every year we have a big group of them leading. And it's a really, really special part of our program. The red shirts, in case people are wondering, denote third year alumni. Blue is 2, and we'll see if we have 4-year shirts this next summer. Okay, that didn't work. But anyways, last thing I'm going to say before I turn it over for questions and maybe some more comments from Zane and Gwen is that the application, which a lot of you guys have questions on about what we're looking for. Just to repeat it, we're looking for, I know it sounds cliche, we're looking for a wide variety of interns, and that's because we want interns with different life experiences, different backgrounds, different passions, different majors, different years in school, freshmen to PhD to graduates. We're looking for really a wide variety of people. And again, it does sound cliche, but the reason we want that is because we want a wide of impact as possible on the students. We want the students to get, to be able to talk to interns from different experiences, different parts of the world, different majors, to connect. If there's a student studying maths that's not in Zane's group and he or she, they see Zane's presentation and say, I got to talk to Zane, even though he's not my mentor. I want to talk to him about math. I had a student who saw my presentation on film when I studied film, and I helped him get into film school in Japan, which he had never, wanted to do until he realized, after the presentation. So that's why we want a wide variety of people, and also to meet, within intern to intern, to meet people with different passions as well, which is a really important part of our program. But so, be yourself on the application. Again, super cliche. Please show your passion for teaching. Don't worry about if you haven't, done 100 hours of teaching or you've never taught ESL before. Please just it's the passion for mentoring and helping students. And then last thing I'll say, advice for the application is please apply early. We hire on a rolling basis. Everything's going to be a little delayed this year because of COVID. When we start our interviews, we'll be pushed back a bit, but still applying early. We review the applications in the order they come in. And so, and by phases. So that's why our first deadline is November 30th. And that is, if you really want to be part of this program, we highly recommend applying early because we hire most of our candidates that are from the early phase that apply before November 30th, excuse me.
Matt, we just got a question in about a prerequisite being a native speaker. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what that means?
Right. Thank you, Gwen. Yeah. So prerequisite being native speaker is it's kind of confusing on how we put it, but we need native level English. You do not have to be a native speaker of English. That doesn't have to be your first language as long as you have a native level. And how we prove that, I mean, people have sent us the IELTS scores or just talked about their experience, with English if it's not their native language. But we, through the application, we're reading these applications and selecting for interviews. We might not know if you're not native. That's totally fine. And if we, through the interview, even we can talk about it. As long as you're at the native level of fluency, you're totally good. And we've had people that have had a number of languages as their first language that's not English participate in this program. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, sorry, we got just one more before we start the Q&A and finish up. Sorry to interrupt. Can you talk about the likelihood of the program happening next summer in terms of COVID and how we're updating on that, how we're following it?
Yeah, thanks. And it's a tough question, and I don't mean to be vague, but it's so uncertain. We are following the guidelines of the Olympics happening in Tokyo. It's much like our program, bringing people from around the world. So we're watching that. We're talking with our program sponsors, ultimately Toshin. So that's the Japanese company I mentioned that we work with. Ultimately, it's their decision of holding the program or not. While we will be guiding them, it's their decision. So we're following their guidance as well. And of course, WHO, CDC, embassies, we're constantly staying updated with these institutions. And please, you yourself as applicants, stay updated as well. We'll try to update that website. In the end, quite a variety of situations could happen. One, fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever you need to do right now, and we all hope it happens, and we determine it's safe to do so, because that's the most important thing. The number two is it doesn't happen, which sad. Very we hope doesn't happen. Of course, it happened this past summer. And number three, there could be potentially a quarantine type situation. We've discussed the idea of if it's a 7-day quarantine, for example, we could do it in a facility that we have that can support training. That's probably a more rare thing of the other two, but it could happen. So we're really open to these kind of things. And of course, it depends country to country. In the end, it might be that Japan is okay for a lot of countries to come in, but maybe the U.S. cases are spiked too high, and we can't. So we're going to have to monitor this constantly, and we'll keep you guys updated on the page. But again, if you apply and now and you get accepted, and in next year we start talking about onboarding, you're not locked into the program until you buy your plane ticket, and put in down deposit. So we're going to push that back as much as we can, and we're not going to push you to do that. We will be very flexible in terms of when you make that commitment. So when it's uncertain, we're not going to force you to get locked in, of course. And I think that's the most important thing is us keeping open about what's going to happen. But even if you're worried, apply anyways, and then make your decision once you're accepted is what my recommendation would be, because you have plenty of time to do that. Any more questions?
There's a couple more questions. I wasn't sure if you were finished yet. The first one is, what's the maximum number of interns that can participate in this program?
Yep, that will be, we don't have the exact number determined because it's based around the students. And a lot of times, I mean, it's all a prediction game, as Zane and Gwen know from their experiences of students for this program sign up so last minute. I mean, we get a ton of signups the days before the program starts. And they're signing up throughout the summer for the different weeks of the program. And so it's all predictions of how many total students there are, but we do predict somewhere between 200 to 250 interns for this upcoming summer. And I should say that about 30 to 50 of those will be returning interns as well. Oh, if the questions.
Typical. Okay, we have a couple, so I'll just keep going with them. The question about the typical week and how the Japanese classes and cultural events factor into the time of the work week.
So they are all after school. So, let's say you're heading out of the classroom at about 5:15, 5:30. You are completely free to do whatever you want. That is it. You're just required to be in the classroom until then. Maybe we'll have a Japanese class at 6:30 to 8, and you can have some dinner before attending that. Maybe we'll have a museum trip at 6 p.m. And then certainly interns will be gathering and leaders to say, hey, we're going here. You want to come check out this landmark and here, and unofficial things going on, like I mentioned earlier. But other than that, you are free to do whatever you please on the weekdays after class and the weekends, except when maybe you need to travel to another venue. Maybe you're teaching one week in Osaka and the next week in Tokyo. You need to catch that bullet train on Sunday to get back to Tokyo and check into your housing. Zane, Gwen, any comments otherwise on the work week in that regard?
Yeah, just to add on to that, some of the events that we have are organized mostly for kind of Saturdays, so that they kind of take up the bulk of that day. And Sundays are usually the travel days. So for people who are going to be moving from venue to venue, Sundays will be the day where you'll get on a big train, maybe take the Shinkansen, go on a flight, these sorts of things. Sundays is the days where you typically will not have booked an official sort of event. But, of course, if you're not traveling anywhere, you can do whatever you want on Sunday.
Yeah. And if I'll add to that, people always ask me, people always ask me what the biggest challenge for me was the first time around. And, of course, people can talk about culture shock and going to Japan for the first time, but for someone who's done the program 5 years or had been to Japan before, one thing I always recommend is don't overexert yourself as a tourist. I made the mistake of wanting to do as much as possible crammed in those 5 weeks, and you get tired, and teaching takes a lot of energy. And so take a day to rest too, and that's, again, going back to my recommendation of coming to Japan early to explore it too, so you don't cram your weekends full. Yeah. Okay. Any?
Yeah. Sorry, we also got a question about withdrawing at a later date after you apply and get accepted, if there's any kind of financial penalty or anything like that.
Yeah. So again, it's you're not locked in until you buy the plane ticket, and we will not do that if it is not safe to do so, to not travel. So COVID wise, please do not worry about that. If you are locked in and something happens with the coronavirus or a family emergency or these unavoidable things, we can refund your deposit as well and work with the travel agency, because family emergency is obviously something you can't control. We totally understand. Yeah.
We had a question from Victoria about if we are not necessarily interested in career in teaching or in Japan, and we are interested in this internship purely for the cultural experience, would we be at a disadvantage if we say so in the application process?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It's again, I'll just say it's okay to not be interested in teaching as a career or teaching in Japan or teaching ESL. The cultural experience is a huge part of this program too, but we do want this program to be student focused, student centered. It's really about impacting these students and providing them the best experience. That is our number one goal with this program. So, make that clear in the application. If you're not teaching, totally fine. But if you want to impact students, please, make that clear, because the mentoring is such a huge part, so special.
And we have another question about what the percentage of applicants accepted into the program is.
Yep. I don't like this question because I don't want to scare people. But okay, to give you the numbers from 2019, or 2020, we had just over 1,000 applicants, maybe about 1,200 applicants. So it's quite a bit. And we only accepted just shy of 200 because the others were returning interns, which is a separate process. That puts the percentage, it's about 15, 16%. But we don't want to scare you off with that, because a lot of those applications, and maybe some people are on this info session that were on the wait list for our program because they applied late, and we interviewed them. We loved talking to them and thought they'd be great, but we were already full. So the early phase, where I would say about 75, 80% of our interns come from, I mean, it could be 100 if we find everyone in that first phase, 100%. The acceptance rate is a lot better than that because people apply late and we're out of room. So that's why I prefaced it with that. Even though our acceptance rate is about 15%, it's a lot higher in the first round. Oh, and I mentioned real quick, I didn't mention this. You go through 2 interviews, actually. So once you submit your application, you interview with one of us. You could interview with me, Zane, or Gwen. And then you would interview with Toshin, our team in Japan. Of course, all in English. And that's why the process takes a bit of time as well, since there's two interviews.
So just to add to that, if you really want to improve your chances of being accepted, apply early. Apply as soon as you can.
Yeah. Yep. The rolling phase thing we've done year after year, and we just figured, if people get, find out about us early and apply early, they're enthusiastic, they're passionate. So we'll add you to the team.
We got another question from Victoria, if we can upload the presentations somewhere, or will it be uploaded somewhere?
Yeah, we'll upload that to the webinar page with the recording. Thanks, Victoria. Now I can see the chat, so I see, is there a test component in the interview? For example, would we have to do a mock presentation? We do. You don't have to do a mock presentation, but we do ask you scenarios. What would you do in this scenario in the program? Hey, I'll throw one out there. Since you guys joined the info session, you get a little bonus to hear one of our potential questions. We have a list, of course, that we change up, but what would you do if 3 of your students out of 4 were talking a lot and having fun and enjoying the program together, but one student was, particularly shy and not so much speaking up and not so much participating in the discussion? What would you do in that scenario? And that is one potential question. So it's very scenario based in that regard. I think I just saw a question. And no worries, Angela. We did not mention that question, by the way. Oh, we do ask about, why are you interested in teaching as well, if it's not clear in your application. So just to add to that. Accommodation. We have some pictures on the website. That's actually a great question to be able to see that. And we go over it in training week. We have a whole day, kind of an admin day, where we go over all the logistical things, including housing, and we explain everything in more detail as well. But it's all based on venue, just to say that again. So for example, you might get 1 week at a share house in Tokyo. So, maybe it's a 5-bedroom share house. It's me, Zane, Gwen, another intern, and a Japanese professional that recently graduated that wants to meet people. And then the next week I go to Sapporo and I do a homestay with the student's family. And then the next week I go to Sendai, and the school there's no housing, so the school has booked us a hotel. And yeah, in that case, you would get your own bathroom, for example, as opposed to a share house. And we feel bad about the discrepancies, but it just depends on where you're at. And I think every experience is good and has their benefits. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of share houses, Come On Up, our sister company, deals with share houses. So there might be pictures on a website, but in terms of hotels and hostels and things like that, those are more chosen later. So was very nice. I stayed in hostels and dorms.
Yeah. Yep. And actually, yeah, Gwen's right. You can go on our website and click on Come On Up to go to their website, or it's just comeonup-house.com, and you can see pictures there to get an idea. Open to a few more questions. I could stay, another 5-6 minutes. Any other questions? What age are the students? Yeah, great question, Julia. They are junior high to university, but the vast majority are high school students. And in Japan, high school is the equivalent of the U.S. 10th through 12th. Zane, do you have something to add?
Yeah, so just to clarify for anyone who is not familiar with junior high school levels, because in England we don't do that.
Sorry.
So typically junior high school students would be maybe about 15 or so. The majority of the students that you'll interact with will be second year high school students, so about 16 to 17 years old. And of the university students, most of them will probably be about 18 or 19 or so. So you've got quite a big spread going from about 15 to about 19, but the vast majority will be about 16 or 17 years old.
Exactly correct. Thank you, Zane. Sorry about that terminology. Do we know who your students are before the camp, Nancy? So you do not know who your students are until the first morning of that week. When our morning meeting on Monday, we usually meet an hour early instead of 30 minutes. You get your student group. We let you know their skill level as well, where they're at, whether you're getting a beginning or an advanced group. Which, by the way, you could have students that seem as fluent as us in some cases, in some rare cases. Really is a wide variety. And we try to diversify your experience too. If you have beginners for the first 2 weeks, try to maybe get an advanced student in the next week. But yeah, you find out the day of and you get their names and you go right from there. Because again, students are signing up the day before. So the staff is working to create the groups literally right up until the first day. What level of English proficiency? Oh, so I just talked about that. It's really varies. Do we mix in any Japanese we may know? Though I will say there's no Japanese allowed in the classroom, and the students know that going in. We really emphasize that, and we emphasize, not worrying about making mistakes and don't hesitate to ask questions. Enjoy yourselves to get, because all the students are going to be nervous, of course, but by the end, you will see that slowly sift away and they're really enjoying themselves. So the classroom.
Just to add to that, sorry, go on.
No, good.
Okay. The classrooms are entirely in English. And what that does is that in some ways it forces the students to really try to use their English. If they think that they can get away with some Japanese, then they will try to. And if you kind of put up this image of you not knowing any Japanese at all, then they really have to go the extra mile to try and make that connection to communicate with you.
Yeah.
And if their English level isn't quite high, there are a lot of different tools and techniques and ways to get across a message. And this is one of the things that we focus on during the training week as well.
Absolutely. The ever important training week. We really make sure everyone's prepared for that. And if I do say so myself, well, Gwen, that was your first time last summer, but Zane and our returning interns helped create the training week. And we think that's super important because someone like Zane can provide such great insight, that's insight plus advice in one, to your experience. And those specific situations are really helpful. Maddie asked, and I see a bunch of questions coming in, so I'm jumping up. Maddie, is there any way to meet interns in our group before the trip? So there is a Facebook group that we start during the onboarding process, and everyone's starting to communicate. However, that includes everyone in your group A or B, like the big groups. As far as your small groups, though, those are literally created right up to the program, like training week, you find out. And that's because we're waiting for the students to sign up to know how many interns we have to send to venues. And, Zane and Gwen will probably help me with this task this year, which is, or next year, which is grouping, which takes a lot from us because we have to figure out how many interns we need in each location and where they're traveling each week. So it is a very last minute process. It just has to be by nature of the student signups. But you will get to meet everyone in the program through Facebook group, and we encourage people to connect we've had meetups in cities too prior to it, like, LA interns at UCLA have met up before the program, things like that. Aditi, would applying in a week's time compared to 3 weeks' time make a difference? That's a great question. It is primarily phase focused, so definitely before November 30th is the main thing. However, we do review applications in order of submission. So maybe there's a slight, ever so slight advantage, but I would say just worry about getting it before November 30th. Because and quite frankly, that's when we'll start reviewing applications anyways. But we do go in order and start selecting for interviews in order. Mikey, is there a group chat? Oh, yep, so I answered that. And we have the group. Oh, sorry, Gwen, you answered that too. I'm behind on scrolling through the chat.
No worries. We got a question about top 3 qualities that we look for in interns.
Oh, well, let's just think about the top 3 qualities of Zane and Gwen, shall we? No, I'm just kidding. Be Zane, be Gwen. No, that's a really tough question. And Zane and Gwen can jump in too. But I think, number one, a passion, a desire to impact others, a desire to mentor students. Doesn't necessarily mean that you've done it before. It doesn't necessarily mean you've taught English before, but a desire to do so. A really genuine passion to impact students, because that's our most important thing, as Zane and Gwen have said throughout this info session as well. Again, the other 2 are kind of hard because we want people of different, experiences and majors. So that, we want a balance. I guess that means that's part of the process. We're not going to hire 200 Japanese majors or 200 East Asian Studies majors or 200 maths majors. It's got to be different. So that is kind of technically part of the process, but not something you can do as applicants, or you can change. I would say a general enthusiasm and positive energy is super important for this program too. And please make that clear in your interview if you're selected, because this program is all about energy. And it is tiring, like I said, as a teacher. And Zane and Gwen both did the program, and Zane's taught outside of the program too. And so we know, if any of you have taught, you have to be on. You have to be turned on the whole, your energy there the whole week. And so that's super important. So please display that enthusiasm as well. And of course, an open and flexible mindset. Adaptability is huge for us, because yes, we don't care necessarily if you've traveled before. We just ask that question in the application because we want to know your feeling towards traveling and exploring a new place. We want to know, are you adaptable? Are you flexible? Because sometimes in this program, we could say, hey, sorry, we need 3 people from this group to go to Fukuoka. We need more students signed up. We need more teachers. And we need people with that mentality to be like, okay, I'll go, no problems. Fukuoka sounds fun, which by the way it is, and great food down there. But so we were looking for that kind of mindset too.
Yeah, you might not always get your first choice and location. I mean, a lot of the time we'll try to match you with the locations that you prefer, but it's always up in the air depending on where we have the most students. So being flexible about that kind of thing and open to new experiences and exploring is ideal. Same thing with housing. You might request a private room, and we can't always provide that, but we'll try our best. So being open about that is ideal.
And along those lines, I'd say patience is always a virtue. You're in quite an intense situation. There's lots of different people, lots of different personalities. Some people will be feeling homesick. Some people might just have had a bad day. It can be frustrating if you're not getting across to some students, or maybe some student is just not trying to get onto the same wavelength as you. And just being able to take that all in, but still, have a smile throughout the day and teach your students to the best of your ability. Having the patience is just so important.
Thank you, both of you. I felt like that covered the bases perfectly, adding those 2 things. Thank you. Where were we on questions? As long as we apply before November 30th, it's fine. Yes, just make sure to do that. When will we know if we get accepted? We have it on the website, and gosh, I feel like I should know this date of the final day. I think it's end of January. It's rolling. So as we're interviewing, we're accepting people at different times. But everything is tentative because of the COVID situation. because again, you have to go through 2 interview processes, and one of them's with us and one of them's in Japan, and scheduling that. We'll probably start interviews December-ish. And then, scheduling the first and second interview. So it could take a couple months. And then of course, Toshin making the final acceptance, group by group. So just, think it might take a couple months, but we'll keep you updated, and you can always email us to see where we're at in the process. This is a question for Zane, it seems like. Does it matter if which year of uni we are and whether we finished the degree by the summer of the internship?
So I guess it's kind of an answer for both myself and for Matt to answer. But as far as I'm aware, it's not which year of uni you're in is not particularly important. It could, even if you've just recently graduated, you can still be accepted onto the program, and possibly even 1 year after graduation as well, depending on what kind of work you've been doing since you graduated.
Yeah, and
Matt, if you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, and Zane, I actually forgot the second half of the question, which was Victoria's in the UK and in the penultimate year of university, and so in terms of internships relevant to the career field, so Victoria was thinking of applying to another year instead. I don't know if you had anything to add based on that.
Yeah, so sometimes we do get people who are accepted onto the program, but then maybe they've been accepted onto some other internship, they might drop out. And as long as, I think Matt, as you said earlier, as long as you haven't bought your plane tickets, it's fine to say that you no longer wish to do this program, and that helps to open up spaces for other people as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about which year of uni you're in. If you're applying to other programs as well, that's not too much of an issue, I'd say.
Exactly. And yeah. Oh, sorry. There's another question about the type of visa. I think I missed one earlier maybe, but you can stay longer in the Japan after completion of the program. That's your second part of your question. As long as you want, you book your flight for whatever dates you want. Of course, we only provide housing for the program. So that last Sunday weekend of the program is the last day you get housing. But if you want to continue to stay in share housing, for example, coming up for some cheap accommodations like $30 a night, but you can stay for as long as you want. You're just on your own after the program ends, but you book your flight with those dates in mind. And then for visa, you don't need a visa because we enter as tourists, because the internship is unpaid, it's subsidized, so it is a tourist experience in that sense. So you do have 90 days, I believe, so just keep that in mind for if interview.
Yeah.
Good.
Just to add to that with my own personal experiences. So in 2018, I came a bit before the start of the program, only by a few days. But because my university starts quite late in October, I spent basically all of September in Japan. My sister had come along, and I was showing her around Tokyo, to all the places that I'd seen, which was really nice. And then in 2019, I came a month early to the program, and I stayed at some of my friends' places in Japan who I'd met on the program, some of the Toshin staff, even some of the students who were university students and were old enough for me to just hang around with. So as long as you stay within that 90-day period, then you won't have any issues with visas.
Thank you, Zane. And we'll stick around for 4 more minutes. We'll cap it at the 20 after mark. So if anyone has any final questions in the chat, thank you everyone, by the way, for your questions. Very helpful. And usually, when we do these in person, that's the most important aspect of it, is to answer questions. And if you, again, like I said, feel free to email. If you didn't get your questions asked, we'll be sure to respond quickly to that too. Any more questions?
You'll have to check out the editor of Facebook, so if you want to ask questions on there, feel free as well.
Thank you, Gwen. All right. We'll just sit and stare at the chat for about a minute to see if there's any final questions, people typing out. But while any last questions are coming in, Thank you all so much for coming to this. This was our first official online info session, and we were really excited to do it. But also, while we're bummed that we can't be at each school and give our presentations there, this was great, and we really appreciate your enthusiasm for coming to attend this. I think I just saw a question. Aditi, you lived in Japan when you were younger. Oh, awesome. And will that affect anything? Please mention in your application. Again, we're not specifically looking for people that stayed in Japan before or have or experience in Japan or in Japanese, but we love hearing about it, of course. And of course that, one advantage you may have, which is, quote unquote advantage, is that in terms of the mindset we've been talking about earlier is that adaptability. But that is by no means a requirement. In fact, we want people to experience their first time in Japan as well. So, Aditi, we try not to, that's not part of the selection process, because we want everyone to, regardless of experience in Japan. Kylie, that just asked about special education needs students. And, as educators ourselves, especially Zane and I, who teach on, otherwise aside from this program and have experience with that. And the situation, I don't want to get into it too much, is a bit different in Japan and how they classify students. And again, you can do your own research on this. And as a teacher, I'm curious about this kind of thing, but this is up to Toshin. And there actually, some of the requirements for applying are a base English level, which still can be quite low, but there is a base English score. And so while we haven't experienced that in the past, it's at Toshin's discretion of who I would love to have that discussion with Toshin. I think it's a good thing every year is we have an open discussion about the program. We take intern input very seriously. We have a big end of the year form that we all go over. We bring in interns to change the textbook. If something's not working, which inevitably one thing doesn't work every year, we go back to the drawing board and change it based on intern feedback. And so this is something where intern feedback can come into play too. It's really important. In fact, every day you fill out a form for Toshin to read about your experience, just a short form. Zane, did you have something to add?
Yes, so there's a question in the chat. Are there any schools that have students with special education needs and have SEN students participated in the programs? So as Matt talked mostly about the second half of that question, right. As far as I'm aware, we haven't done this program with special education needs specific schools. Right. Though, of course, there are lots of students in all schools with varying special education needs. And, I've been in classrooms with students who appear to be on the spectrum, maybe with autism, or have shown signs of ADD or ADHD. And so I think also the culture of special education needs in Japan is quite different to how it is in the UK and in the US. So, these students will appear in classrooms on occasions, but as far as I'm aware, not specific schools where a whole classroom will have a variety of students with different needs like this.
All right, thank you, Zane, very much. And just one thing to add that we may not have mentioned, not only do we have leaders like Zane who are in the classroom to provide advice and help with mentoring your students if you ever run into anything. Of course, we have Toshin staff, Japanese staff. And, last resort, of course, English only in this program, the staff can always help and talk to a student in Japanese if needed. So while I said like interns run the classroom, of course, there's staff there to help whenever needed. And they're all super great. So. And that's great, Kelly, that you're a SEN teaching assistant. That's awesome. Please talk about that in your application. Any final questions? I think we're going to end it. Thank you again so much for all your enthusiasm for the program, for attending this, whether it's 11:20 in the morning or 2:20 in the afternoon for Gwen, or 6:20 in the evening.
Yeah, 6:20.
For Zane and people in the UK or wherever you are, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing your application. Again, please email me matt@comingoutjapan.com or our info@comingoutjapan account with any questions. Zane and Gwen, any final words?
Thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to speaking to you and reading your applications. Yeah.
Zane?
Thank you everyone for all of your questions and for coming to this session. Last words from me, apply now. Like right now.
That is the best way to end it. Just do it right now. Thank you, Zane. Perfect. All right. Thank you all so much. We're going to end it here and look forward to meeting you, talking to you, reading your applications. Enjoy. See you. Have a good weekend.